I'm going big time today, folks. I'm going big time. You know, we in the Mid-Atlantic region. We on the East Coast. So today is a Big East Saturday. We got Marquette and UConn on this show, and fine, I would say, honestly, top 15 programs, top 15. Get on a good year, they both, top 10, but consistently top 15 programs in America are represented by Mr. Dwayne Killings and Mr. Kamani Young from Marquette and UConn, respectively. How you guys doing?
Same here, man. Locked in, trying to get better every day, finding ways to stay busy.
Well, we living through some crazy times, so I have to ask, Kills, how is the Mrs. Anna and the kids, and Kamani, how are you? How are your kids? What is it? Kamal, Khalik, Salima, Salima, and Kyrie. How's everybody, man?
Everybody on our end is good, man. We're just doing it different, doing schoolwork in the crib. I'm doing PE classes outside, working out with the wife in the basement, making it all work. But it's been good, man. It's been good in this time.
Come on, you need a teaching assistant over there, don't you? You got four.
It's crazy, man. And I got older kids too. I got a senior who's trying to finish up strong and deal with all the anxiety around no graduation and
no prom, none of that.
We're trying to figure out a way to make up for some of that stuff. My two younger ones in the house, they just staying busy with schoolwork, trying to get them to clean up around the house, trying to get them to do other things besides, watch Netflix and play video games. And then my little son, I got a 5-year-old son that's in Philly. Just talking to him a couple times a day, trying to keep him sane, because he's used to going to school and running around and being active, and now he locked down to his place, and they got a little park in the neighborhood where he lives, but that's been a challenge. But just try to explain to them we got to stay safe, man. Got to stay safe.
Well, you tell him to be strong, because I know his homie's knocking on his door. We not following directions in Philly, dog. I know his homie's knocking on his door. You tell them my daddy said I can't go out, because if I go outside right now, I run into rough touch games, full court basketball, skateboard, everybody chilling. I don't know, man. I think we all gonna pay for this in a couple weeks, couple months. Yeah. Come on, you probably don't know this, man, but I take a lot of pride in getting Kills his top recruit ever.
Awesome.
Ever.
The Starbucks.
Starbucks. Yeah,
Starbucks on Broad Street.
It was an official visit too, dog. at the Starbucks. So she comes in. She about 5'8", 5'7", something like that.
Yeah, she about 5'5". You giving them extra? She had heels on that day.
Oh, all right. Well, she was bright. She was intelligent. After like a couple minutes, I'm like, Kills, man, what's the deal, man?
Yeah, doing over there?
Yeah, go ahead, lock
you
this
over there fumbling.
Take that commitment. And me and her been real cool ever since that day, man. So to this day, I always bring that up to Kill and let him know I know how to recruit. I had to give him some guidance on that one, come on.
Absolutely.
You did.
He needs it every now and then, man. Every now and then he needs it.
Yeah, sometimes I need to get reminded, but Dell had the letter of intent right there at the meeting.
Right. That's
right. Out of his pocket.
Right. That's right. That's how you do it.
Look, I have to ask this question as we get started. and I want your honest take, because both of y'all grew up around here, so y'all remember, just like I remember. Is the Big East still the Big East? You know, it's good to see UConn coming back, but since Syracuse, Pittsburgh, West Virginia, all them left, some saying that the league is kind of like, you know, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, and Frankie Beverly and Mays, and Gladys Knight and the Pips. And y'all would be the Pips with Jay Wright and Nova playing that lead singing role, man. Are we coming back? Is the Big East going to be strong like it used to be, man? Go ahead, Kamani. Oh, it don't matter.
Well, Kamani, I'll let you answer after. You know, for me, I think it's the best basketball league in the country. I mean, living in it and being in it, it's different from what it was, I think, back in the day, where the physicality was always kind of the thing that everybody kind of knew and identified with the league. But right now, you have some of the best guards in the country, hands down. I mean, I think there's no argument about that. I mean, this past year, you had two of the best guards in the country. Over the last couple of years, you know, you saw that in what Villanova was able to get accomplished. This year, you know, we had the best scorer in the country. I think in terms of basketball and talent, and if you talk about want to get into a league that's fun, exciting, high scoring, playing in NBA arenas with high level coaches, I think it's the best basketball that's out there.
Kamani?
Yeah, I agree with DK, man. I grew up watching Big East basketball, and I think the league is going through a transition. But I still think it's the best basketball conference in the country. And why I say that is because, you know, all the resources that these universities have at their expenses goes into men's basketball for the most part. And then you have such, you know, natural rivalries that, you know, just aren't going away, you know, and these kids that have kind of grew up in the Mid-Atlantic region, you know, they know these guys that they're playing against. They've developed these rivalries over years, and you just see it all come out on these Big East stages.
And Del, you know, the other thing I'll say too about it, like when you watch our games, like you watch them on TV, like the production of the games are high level. You know, there's a difference in when you watch one of our games on Fox Sports on a Saturday or Big Fox, and then you flip the channel to another game on another rival network. It just has a different feel to it. You know, and I think what that does is it gives a great marketing platform for the individual programs and the individuals that are out there. And I think that's why also we get celebrated so much, all the teams that have success year in and year out.
Yeah, I'll add this too, Del. Like I was in the Big Ten for 5 years, and the Big Ten is a you know, awesome basketball league, you know. But I never felt like I was up against insurmountable talent on the court. Mm-hmm. You know, I felt like the Big Ten was more about older guys, well-coached systems, where in the Big East, you playing against NBA players every night. You know what I mean? Like we played against 2 Big East teams this year at UConn, and we felt the difference playing against Xavier and playing against Villanova. And I think that's what you want in college basketball. You want the excitement of knowing that the guys that you're watching, playing with, and playing against are going to be going on to the NBA soon.
So y'all came to y'all senses, man. Y'all not chasing Alabama and Louisiana, LSU in football no more. UConn understands what UConn is now. Come on.
Yo, people don't understand. That wasn't on UConn. That wasn't a decision made by UConn. Everybody thinks like we made this decision to leave, and DK knows this from working here for 2 years. Like we didn't have a league to go into. You know, once the league separated, you know, the Big East made a commitment to small
Catholic schools,
Catholic universities, private Catholic universities, and UConn didn't fit in that mold. They didn't have the facilities to move on to an ACC or Big 12, and we were stuck in the AAC. You know, to be totally transparent. So, you know, finally with our new AD, he understood that this program was heading in the wrong direction if we didn't get back into the Big East and be able to recruit at a high level and get us back to national prominence.
Well, it's good to have UConn back in the Big East where y'all belong, man. Now, what do you say is the main recruiting area or base for you guys and the Big East in general? Kills, you like an Amherst Philly hybrid guy. You know, you kind of got 2 homes. And Kamani, I know you're a New Yorker. So is that Mid-Atlantic corridor still the primary base for the Big East programs? That would be like New York, Boston, New York, Jersey, Philly, Baltimore, DC, maybe a little Northern Virginia. Is that still the same as it's been for the past 40 years?
For me, yeah. I mean, I think if you look at, we're us and Xavier and Creighton, we're a little bit outside in terms of, the schools when you look at UConn, St. John's, Villanova. But we're all getting on planes to come into the Mid-Atlantic region because that's where the best players in the country are. I mean, I think we're all trying to find the right guys that fit our program, but it always pulls you back into those regions. And in the end of the day, I think we're all competing to win games where we're competing a lot of times for some of the same kids because there's such talent-rich areas. When you look at areas like Philadelphia, New York, DC, I think fundamentally those kids really know how to play the game. But then on top of it, I think they've just been competing against each other since such a young age. There's all these leagues that are developed where they're coming out and really kind of you hear these names almost when they're 7 or 8 years old. And
Made Hoops is big now, man. That's middle school.
Yeah, I mean, the Made Hoops, development, what that's done for basketball really has put those kids in a AAU mindset really early. But also what happens is they learn how to compete at a high level, and then we just sit and watch them develop and grow. And we all kind of have similar needs, so we end up competing each other, and we're always in gyms watching and evaluating the same talent.
Come on.
Yeah, I would agree with that, man. Big East basketball is from the New England prep schools to Northern Virginia, just how you described it. Whether you're at Marquette, DePaul, Xavier, Butler, Creighton, like you're still going to get back to the area to recruit because this is where the Big East resonates with kids and with families. I know working for my boss, when he put our staff together, his mindset was, I want guys that are going to be comfortable recruiting the New England prep schools, New York, New Jersey area, and then Baltimore, DC, Virginia. And that's where our focus is. He gives you the lemon face when I tell him, yo, coach, I got this kid out in Chicago. I want us to go check out. You know what I mean? He almost ignores us.
Have any Midwestern kids on your current roster?
We don't, man. We don't. We don't. And I think that's a preference for Danny. I think his basketball life has been spent right in New Jersey when he was a high school coach at St. Benedict's. He went outside the box a little bit with the Canadians and with, Greg Echenique from Columbia. But for the most part, he did it with New York, New Jersey kids. And when he got the Wagner job, it was the same thing on to Rhode Island and now here at UConn. That's our primary focus.
You got any Midwest? You gotta have some. You're in Milwaukee.
For us, we're more of a national footprint in how we recruit. It's our program, we're the highest resource program in the country. So it allows us to get out and recruit kids, whether it's on the East Coast.
Wait. Don't just slide that in like that, man. You got to go back. Rewind. You are the highest what? And what does that mean?
Well, what it really means is just how we invest into our program. And it's Marquette prides itself of, celebrating basketball and making basketball the front door of our university. So our leadership at the school, they invested in a high level. So that's from how we travel, how we eat. We have a chef that prepares meals every meal. It's our Jordan brand contract. It's, the jet that Coach Wojo flies on. We put in a lot of resource and investments into our kids to, in the end of the day, become the best version of themselves. But, Coach Wojciechowski, I think because of his brand, he's had unbelievable success as a player, as a coach at Duke, USA Basketball. So I think because of who he is and what he represents, it allows us to get into a lot of doors, all around the country. One of our former assistants had spent a lot of time on the West Coast, so we did the West Coast thing. When I got the job here, he said, I want you to go East. I want East Coast kids in our program because just as Kamani said, to win the Big East, you got to go through the East, whether it's one of the teams in the program or you go to Xavier and you look up and they got 2 or 3 kids that are on their roster that have prominent roles that are from the East Coast. Mm-hmm. So luckily for us, since I've been here, we have 1 kid from New York that we were fortunate to recruit and another one that's coming in from Baltimore. Again, getting back to that Mid-Atlantic region, we believe we're starting to identify some talent on the East Coast region that can come in and help us win the league.
So what really, you touched on this a little bit, Kamani, but what makes Big East basketball different from, say, the A-10, the Big Ten, the ACC. Those are the other conferences that I would say recruit at a pretty high level in the same footprint that you guys do. And what do you look for when you're out there and you're in the gym, you're in an AAU or a high school game? What makes you say a kid can compete and help you guys win Big East basketball games? What does a Big East prospect look like? What makes you say, yo, get on that phone right away and call Wojo or call Hurley?
I'll tell you this, for me, it comes down to toughness. Like you watch a Big East game, there's always going to be a point in that game when toughness is going to win out. Who's the tougher team collectively? Who's not going to?
Who are the toughest couple kids you come to mind this year in your league? The toughest couple of kids.
I'll let DK speak to that.
One of them jumps off the page, Tariq Jones. Kid at Xavier. He's an undersized, physical, imposing front court player. And if it's just you and him, going for a ball, it's going to be hard to go get it. And I watch that kid dominate games, and he doesn't make jump shots. He just rebounds the ball and scores at the rim. He's one of the tougher guys. And I think the thing about our league is there's teams that, like Kamani said, to win the game, you got to be super tough. Like in our program, we literally would track toughness plays, and we would talk to our guys every time out. The toughness battle is 10-2 or 10-8, whatever it is. But then you go to some teams in our league that they're going to try to just outscore you. They have elite jump shooting teams. Some of them will beat you both ways, inside and out. I think everybody approaches it different. But in the Big East, like I coached in another league for 7 years, and it was a great basketball league, really good coaches and players. But the difference in our league is every time you go into an arena, it's an NBA-style arena with anywhere between 12 and 18,000 fans going absolutely insane. And like Kay said, there's a ton of NBA players on the court. Like there's guys that are bona fide NBA basketball players. It might be this year, it might be next year, but they're out there. And then you have elite level coaches. You have teams that have been to the Sweet 16, been to Final Fours, won national championships. To come out there up 1 or up 10 when that buzzer goes off final, it's hard to win. So I think you're looking at guys that are tough, competitive, but also have the mental advantage to have that level of success. You know what I mean? And they're going to hold your attention while you're eating that grub right now. You are killing the sandwich.
Oh, come on. Finish your thoughts.
No, I'll tell you this, Del. Like that's the first thing that comes to mind when we knew we were making that transition from the AAC to the Big East. Like talent is always the first thing. And when I say talent, like size, length, athletic ability, then that kind of transitions into skill, shooting, ball handling. Like what a high major player looks like. But once you get past that, it's the toughness piece, right? The character piece. Can they handle what I describe as the training, right? And what I mean by that is, can he get up on time for breakfast? Can he go to class? Can he, go to study hall? Can he, take care of his strength and conditioning? Can he come and practice at a high level for 2 to 3 hours and then go to bed, get his rest, and do the same thing over and over and over again? And that's not easy to gauge.
So many of the kids at your level have been able to be successful AAU in high school without doing all of that. Yeah. How are you able to kind of sort that out before you take a kid? How do you know your kid is more or less going to be able to, have good organizational skills and good time management skills? Do you have any tools that you use to try to figure that out, or you just take a chance and find out when they get there?
No, I think this is a strength of mine and of DK's. It's all about the relationships you have and how many people can you touch that's surrounding that kid. Mm-hmm. We've both been in the business for a long time. We've been able to, build tremendous relationships. For me, it was through grassroots, right? It was through, high school, AAU. And I know enough people that if I need to get everything, all the information that I need to create a full profile of this kid, I'm able to do it.
Same thing, DK?
Yeah, For me, like me and Kay met literally just because, there was a kid that we had at Temple and he had an influence around that kid. And again, you're trying to touch as many people as you can that create the community for that kid in his high school life. Then you're trying to bring them into your community, in this college experience. For us, we like to start talking about like we have elite people on campus. I think there's a great community of people from our leadership to the people in our building to the people in our program that help these kids and put their arms around them. We also want to make sure we're bringing in kids that are going to take advantage of it, right? Like on the court, in the community, and in the classroom. I think what Coach has developed here is a really unique, breeding ground for developing talent, not only for the players, but coaches. In his 6 years here, he's gotten 2 guys to go on to be, head coaches, one at Holy Cross, one at Loyola Marymount. That's pretty impressive, for a young coach.
Yeah.
That's really absolutely.
For me, it's been a situation where I've been here 2 years. He just promoted me to associate head coach. He pushes you to become better. So if he's pushing me to become better, that means I'm becoming better to teach our kids in our program. We took a kid prior to me coming here, but a kid, Sakara Min, who Kamani knows, was in the Minnesota area. To be honest, he was probably like a mid-major player. Absolutely. Inserted him. His first year, he averaged 2 points. His past year, he averaged almost 14 points a game, 6 rebounds, shot almost 40% from 3. And the kid was a bona fide Big East basketball player. That's a development piece. When you look at Marcus Howard, we developed him. He's an elite level talent, but we gave him a stage.
What did he average as a freshman?
16 as a freshman, averaged almost 28 points this past year. Led the country in scoring.
Kid come in and average 16 as a freshman was pretty developed, Gills.
Yeah, no, for sure. But you still got to give him a stage where he understands what it is and how to go get it, right? So I think in our program, we're saying 2 things. 1, we can develop talent, whether it's coaches or players. And then 2, high-level talent, guys that are leaders, we can develop you into that leadership role.
Bring it out. Let you show it.
We had to develop him to be able to understand what it's like to be on a feature on ESPN and have a camera at Fox Sports and have, the Athletic following him through his daily career to understand what that's like and to develop into a star. And he was the biggest star in college basketball this past year.
Well, for a lot of kids from this area, with Villanova being as successful as they have been in recent years, the Big East is the dream conference. It's where a lot of guys want to go. And this goes way back. Ricky Tucker from Overbrook played at Providence in the late 70s when the Big East was just kicking off. I know he was there for the inaugural season. And then more recently, we had guys like Rashid Jordan at St. John. Ben Bentil went up to Providence. Jabril Trawick went down to Georgetown, plus all the guys that go to Nova. Mm-hmm. Do you guys still consider Philadelphia specifically to be a prime location to identify Big East level basketball players? And if so, why? Like, what is it about the Philly kids that you think they bring to help you guys win Big East games?
For me, I spent 7 years in Philly, working at Temple for Dunph. It's a badge of honor because I think people embrace me in the city, and that city values basketball, whether it's high school, pro, college. They value basketball. And to come out of Philly as a basketball player, you have high-level talent, guys that are mentally tough, they're disciplined, they know how to play, they know how to win. When the game's on the line, you give the ball to a Philly kid, he's going to figure it out. So for me, like I want to always try to find a way to bring a guy that fits in our needs into our program, because I think those kids, they're always battle tested. You go to AAU, it doesn't matter what AAU program it is, but they always find a way to win a game. Whether they're the most talented or the least talented, they're going to be out there battling against anybody in the country because the kids are fearless. The coaches are fearless. They want that stage. That's what you want to win games at the college level. I think there's just so many high-level players, but they're also high-level competitors, which is something that's lost in our game right now.
A couple things stand out to me. My introduction to Philly basketball was at the grassroots level, and the first coach I ever met from Philly was Paul Gripper.
My man, God bless him. Rest in peace. You know, he
Yeah.
just passed.
Yes, rest in peace. And you know, when he had the Corey Irvin All-Stars and he had the Reebok All-Stars, and I was kind of finding my way with Team Next and S. Carter, I always felt like they played so hard. Like they just played so hard, and they played and they played with a certain pride, right? And me and Paul, we forged a great friendship, you know, through basketball, and whenever it would come to mind, even as I got to college, I would always say, you think of the term Philly tough. You know what I mean? You just think of it when somebody mentions a kid from Philly, the first thing that comes to mind is Philly tough. And I think that hasn't changed, you know. So for me, you know, we're in the process of recruiting some kids from Philly right now. You know we got a huge obstacle to overcome with you know, with Villanova being so strong. But that place is a breeding ground for young talent, man, and that's not changing.
Now, neither one of you guys concede any ground. You don't back up just because Villanova offers, do you? Y'all rumbling, right?
No, I'll let DK answer that one.
Y'all rumbling, right?
Listen, we're just gonna go do what we do. You know,
Wow.
I think the one thing though is, you know, like as much as, you know, Villanova's had unbelievable success, they also, you know, they're going to go up and down the Mid-Atlantic too. You got to find who the right players are for you and for your needs. It's going to have success in your program, because I'm sure Kay will, you know, agree with this. Like if you're going to go get a Philly kid, it's huge. You're excited. Those guys are going to come have success, but there's no way that we're going to turn back to guys like yourself or other people in the Philadelphia corridor and in that market and come back to you and say, damn, man, you let us down. That didn't work for that kid. Like, it's got to be right. It's got to be the right fit. It's got to be the right kid to have success in your program. But I think no matter what happens, you're always going to catch any of the programs, you know, in the Big East, but especially ours and K's are always going to be in the gyms in Philadelphia trying to find the next player and trying to rumble whoever else is going to be in that gym, you know, trying to recruit them as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kamani, look, right now, at this very moment, a couple young boys, one I've known since he was about 3, and the other one I got to know he was in about the 8th grade. And I'm helping those guys, you know, kind of work their way through this, understand what all their options are.
Mm-hmm.
And both of these kids have been through a lot of adversity.
Mm-hmm.
These are kids that have been involved with child protective services,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even placed out of the home for, you know, a little stretch here and there. The family situations haven't been the most stable. One of them has even had some involvement with the legal justice system.
Mm-hmm.
Both of these kids, however, going into their senior year, have managed to maintain really good grades, and both of them have high major scholarship offers, BCS level schools. Now, drawing upon your personal experience,
Mm-hmm.
what advice do you have for young men such as these that have experienced a setback that may seem, you know, insurmountable at the time?
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to help them stay focused and keep on going?
Yeah, what I would tell them is just use it as motivation, man. You know, because people see me as a college coach now. There was a time when I was that same kid, even after overcoming, you know, all the things I had to go through, the adversity I had to go through in my professional career. But there was still a point where I didn't know I could get into college.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was a point when, you know, there was 11 college coaching, you know, coaching changes in the metropolitan area, and I couldn't get on any one of those staffs.
At 1 year? In 1 year?
Yeah, there was 11 coaching changes between New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut.
So that's like 30. That's 30 assistant spots.
Yeah, I want to say the summer of 2011. I think it was a summer. It was either 2010 or 2011. And I just knew that I wasn't being. I looked at myself and said, it's on me. You know, I'm not being viewed as you know, a potential college assistant yet. And, you know, I worked hard at that over that summer and that upcoming season. I spent more time at, you know, college practices. I spent more time building, you know, stronger relationships. And the summer of 2012, I was offered a position with Richard Pitino. But to get back to your point, you know, just talking to young people in general, you know, it's not easy. You know what I mean? I know kids that are going through those kind of circumstances and how hard it could be and how difficult it could be to to feel like you can get to that level. And even when you get there, feeling like you belong there.
Yes.
You know, so it's important that they have people like yourself and they can identify with a coach that's recruiting them, that gets it and can help them, you know, through that process. You know, but I think what it also does, it sets them up for a great story. You know, it sets them up for a great story. And college basketball is all about stories and your journey and, you know, how people can relate to you and connect with you.
Well, look, let's go all the way through your career path then. Talk to me, did you start off with the grassroots stuff or high school? When did you play? When did you stop playing?
I played at Texas El Paso. I played at UTEP, you know, from 93 to 97. I finished playing.
You was before OT then, right?
I was before who?
OT? Didn't OT play for UTEP?
Who's OT?
Omar Thomas.
Who?
Omar Thomas.
He had to be after me.
Right.
Yeah, I was 93 to 97. Steven Jackson. There was a couple Philly kids that went out there.
Jackson. Yes.
Yeah, Stephon Jackson. Yeah, it was a couple Philly.
He's a shooting son of a.
Deontay Christmas's cousin. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a couple kids that went out there. You know, after me, played for Tony Barbee and maybe even Billy Gillespie. Yeah, I finished in 97. Spent 2 years trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. Got myself in some trouble, you know, and had to pay for that. And once I you know got back on my feet and got back to the city, I got right in the grassroots.
What year was that? You got in
the 2000, 2001.
Okay.
Yeah, so 2000, 2001. You know, got back into the grassroots space.
What age group did you start out with?
Oh man, I started literally. I just started working kids out. You know, I was still playing at the time. You know what I mean? I was still playing to stay in shape, playing in summer leagues, playing in corporate leagues, you know, just staying around the game. I started training kids like Irvin Walker, Lance Stevenson, you know, Luis Guzman, you know, guys like that. Who I started, you know, training in like 7th grade. And that kind of just progressed. You know what I mean? I started coaching 12 and under, 13 and under. You know, in 2005, I had my own program, you know, and then I took the leadership at New Heights, and that's where it became a reality that this is a business. This is a space that I can create a career. You know, went on to be an assistant coach at Rice High School with Mo Hicks, and that was another step for me. And then in 2012, I was offered a position with Richard Pitino at FIU down in Miami. And
what year would you say you first really got serious about trying to get that college gig?
I would say around 2006, 2007.
6 years before you broke in?
Yeah. At least. Yeah, and I was doing it for, you know, 4 or 5 years before that. So, but 2006, that's when I started feeling like, okay, this is a career path. You know, when I got into it, it was just more about helping young people, staying busy, doing something that I enjoyed doing, which was being in the gym and being around kids. But in 2006, started traveling and seeing, you know, going to live events and seeing coaches and seeing people I played with and played against. And, you know, I just felt like, you know, a natural progression for me would be to get to college.
So how long were you at Minnesota with with Pitino?
I was there 5 years. We spent 1 year at FIU, had a great season there. You know, 2 or 3 people turned the Minnesota job down, and Richard was right there waiting. So we went out there for 5 years, and now I've been at UConn the last 2.
So a man offers you a gig, takes you to Florida. You're enjoying the weather and everything. 12 months later, he says, yo, man, we going to Minnesota.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. My kids are still mad at me.
I can imagine, man.
It's 7 years later, my kids are still mad at me, man. But you know, listen, Miami, you know, look, we all hope to retire in Miami someday. Yeah. But you know, Minnesota, awesome city, man. Awesome city, awesome place to live. You know, tons of stuff to do. it's cold, and we get that. That's obvious. But, you got 5 pro sports teams, huge music culture, huge food culture. It's an amazing place to live and raise a family. So I definitely enjoyed my time there.
And so what year did you swing back east?
Last 2 years, man. So what's this? This is 20 years. So in 2018, Coach Hurley got the job here, reached out to Coach Pitino and kind of went through that process and offered me a position here.
So now, what's your ride if you ever want to get back home? Hour, 2 hours?
2 hours, man. 2 hours tops.
Yeah.
2 hours tops. Yep. 2 hours tops. I was just there yesterday checking on some family.
So, Kills, walk me through your journey.
I was a walk-on, at UMass. My father worked at the university for 43 years. When I was young, I was a mini Minuteman, running around doing drills around cones at halftime. And I met, Bruiser Flint. And Brew became, he's a close friend, uncle, family member. He would let me run around, hang around him. And, when I was coming out of high school, he gave me an opportunity to walk on to the program. And it was probably the best thing that I ever did in my life. He's been so influential in kind of who I've become as a man and a coach. Jeff Arnold, also another person, became really close to my family. When Brew was let go, I stayed on for another year with Steve Lapis. Great experience. But I wanted something different. So I actually finished my college degree at Hampton University. I just went down there as a student, was running around. A buddy of mine opened up a store selling jerseys and hats when that was kind of the craze. I helped him manage it. I had a great time, but I missed basketball. So I got my first job as an intern with the Charlotte Bobcats when Bob Johnson bought the team, was building it up. I worked 2 years for Bernie Bickerstaff. And at that time, there was a guy named Carl Hicks and Ed Tapscott who worked with Fran Dunphy years before at American University. So when Dump got the job at Temple, he needed an ops guy, and they sent me up there. Basically, it was like, this is your guy. I left Charlotte I don't know why I'm leaving. I was 22 years old, hanging out with NBA players. I thought that was what to do for the rest of my life. I was living. Guys were taking care of me, and I went to Temple, and I first got there, and I fell in love with the city. Man, I loved it. I was fortunate. Brew actually introduced me to Ashley Howard 2 weeks in, and Ash kind of took me under his wing, kind of taught me how to move around Philly, the back alleys, introduced me to people. But the best thing that ever happened to me at that time when I was doing ops, the ops guys could go to high school games. You could go watch high school players. So, a lot of times people identify with me as, extension of the coaching staff. So I started to meet everybody. And, Del, you and I hooked up in Puerto Rico. I remember you hit me for that's how we met. And I got lucky. I met a ton of people in Philly. So that's kind of how I got the Philadelphia network. In all honesty, how I really got linked up in New York was through Kamani. Obviously, I grew up in New England, so I knew a lot of people up there. But I left Temple doing ops. I worked at the NBA league office for a year. Worked for Pat Chambers for a year at BU. We went to the NCAA tournament with Pat. So again, that Philly connection. Pat went from Villanova to BU. Worked with him. I had a chance to go to Penn State with Pat or come back to Temple as an assistant after Matt Lang got the Colgate job. And I went back to Temple for 5 years. And, it was awesome. And I loved it. I obviously got married there. I have a daughter that was born in Philly, and it's funny, the other day I was talking to Jeff Battle, and Jeff thought I was from Philly. He thought I grew up in Philly. And I'm not going to lie, I took it as a compliment. Because, I just think Philly, if you can make it out of Philly and do things the right way, it's like a badge of honor. You know what I mean? So I took it like a compliment. And when I had the job at Temple, I got the job, and I said to Dunph, my only goal is to make the guys, a lot of people wanted that job, and for him to give me that opportunity meant a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, as long as those guys that played in that program looked at me and said, man, that guy's holding us down, I always felt good. And I remember Aaron McKee said that to me, when he was an assistant with the Sixers, helped Ramon Moore, through his career. So that was huge thing for that kid to kind of come into college, struggling academically, had a baby and walk out of there as an all-league player, and that was like one of your guys, huge. But left Temple, went to UConn for 2 years, worked under Kevin Ollie, and then after 2 years there, I came on to Marquette going to my third year now.
Wow, so y'all got some really, I think, different paths in, really, because you kind of came in the front door. Kamani, you kind of came in through that side window, man.
I came through the ski mask on, man. I came through with a ski mask on, man. And it's funny because every job that I got in college, it was other than the UConn job, it was some obstacles to overcome. You know what I mean? When I got hired at FIU, it wasn't easy. You know what I mean? I had some real strong people who had to step up and vouch.
You had to have some extra meetings, some extra conference calls.
Definitely. And then when I went to Minnesota, it was the same deal. It took some the president at the former university I had worked at, Father Maul, who's now the president at Niagara, who I worked with at St. John's. Like some people had to really step up. So, but it just makes it part of my story.
So y'all at the top of the food chain, right? Now with them eliminating this year in residency requirement, a lot of dudes gonna come in. They're gonna make all rookie in the NEC, the CAA, America East, Big South, and they gonna tell their people to call y'all and let y'all know how y'all missed out, and that they might be willing to listen now. And if you are willing to listen, they'll be able to play right away. Will that change the way you guys prioritize, transfers versus high school prospects? And do you think that these transfers really become more attractive in some ways than the high school guys?
For me, I think it's going to be interesting. Like this whole COVID situation is going to change recruiting, at least for this cycle, because you're not getting a chance to see a lot of kids, like the way we normally would. So now does another kid go to, a lower level and then go set it on fire, and then he can just transfer and be able to play in your program right away? It's almost like it's a feeding ground, for high major programs.
Like AAA baseball, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's, there are some coaches now at lower levels that are saying, we're going to give you an opportunity to play on a stage where you can be seen and build your value and possibly transfer up. I think it's going to change college basketball recruiting in a lot of different ways. And then going back to what we talked about before, you're going to be able to really recruit your need and get a guy who has a lot of experience and is probably more college ready because he's a little bit older. But then you got to look at how does that change your roster? Because you're bringing a guy that's a sophomore or junior ready to play right away.
A 20-year-old with 30 college games under his belt, even if it's the NEC or the MEAC, that is a significant difference versus a high school kid.
Right. So you got to look at all that. So you got to look at, how you're going to balance your roster, manage your roster, and manage your recruiting. I think this is going to change what we do in a lot of ways, and it's really going to change what people do that are head coaches of lower levels. How do you manage your program, and how do you get talent, and how do you deal with those things on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. Come on, could you see a low D1 guy going into a home and telling a kid you could be one and done at my school and go on to the Big East? I mean, is that where we are now?
I wouldn't put it past them, man. I just know for me, Dal, I'm not going to be seduced by this. Like I'm not. I don't think our program. I don't think UConn is a national brand. All right, with 4 national championships and countless pros and countless lottery picks. I think that we have to build this thing the old-fashioned way.
Okay.
Now, if along the way there's some transfers that can fit a specific need and or specific role, so be it. But I think we still there's something to be said for building a program where you got 2 or 3 freshmen, 2 or 3 sophomores, 2 or 3 juniors, 2 or 3 seniors, and really having people in your program over 4 years that know what you're about. I think that's how you build excellence. Now, if again, if it's ways you can add a grad transfer to get you over the hump, we did that at Minnesota. We had a really good team, and we added Akeem Springs, who was a tough-minded defensive shot maker he got us over the hump, and it made sense. But to just spend, we'll be spending hours just watching, MAC games and NEC games, to recruit. I don't think you could sustain a great program that way.
And Del, the other thing I'll add too, like the continuity, like having a dude go from freshman to junior to, senior year, he carries the values and the habits of your program. Your culture is key. And then the other piece too, what makes college basketball so exciting is the fans. Fans love to watch guys grow
and identify with them. Yes, buy the jersey and wear.
That's what makes our sport so special. That's what makes the NCAA tournament special. It's about the junior or senior who's kind of coming of age and kind of growing into his own man and living out his legacy. I mean, you don't really have a legacy when you do stuff like that. So I think, sometimes it's going to be, we need a guy to fill in a need. We just lost a guy, or we need this, we need that. But at the end of the day, I mean, why college is what it is, right? Is you go in as a freshman, you walk out as a senior, you come in as a boy, you walk out as a man.
Yeah. I'll add this too, Del. And Dwayne and I are in similar situations when it comes to this. We're not in major cities where you have tons of players going away to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like in a place like New York, Philly, DC, Atlanta, I think that transfer rule is going to help those guys more, because you have more players that have gone away and it hasn't worked out for whatever reason, good or bad, and they say, hey, I want to come back home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's not a ton of players that's in Hartford, Connecticut, or, Milwaukee, with all due respect. So I think it can help places like that. But for us, I think we just got to keep recruiting at a high level, recruiting, the traditional way through high school and through the, the prep schools. And if transfers come our way, outside of that, so be it.
Well, Kills, you mentioned the unique nature of college basketball as a sport. And I agree with you wholeheartedly, but it's also a unique business enterprise. And kids like Marcus Howard and kids like Kemba Walker will have a tremendous value when they are playing on top 10, top 15, Sweet 16, Elite 8 teams. And with the move towards allowing these kids to, get compensated for their likenesses and images, what do you think? If you guys had made a run this year and Marcus Howard is dropping 30, 35 each night, you could just think back to a kid like Steph Curry when they made that run and he was in college. What's he worth, if they're really allowing these kids to sign autographs and make appearances? And if that rule or when that rule comes into place, how are you guys planning on having to manage that? Because it ain't going to be everybody. You've got 13 dudes, might be one or two. Will it be disruptive? Do you think this is a good thing, bad thing? Either one of you.
Will it be disruptive? I think time will tell. I know, our athletic department has already started to not only try to identify some ways for the guys that come into our program, but also try to look at the challenges, right? Like the challenges at Marquette could be different than at UConn. That's different at Alabama, let's say. It's a football institution in the Southeast. It has a different thing. Marcus, he was probably one of the more recognizable players in college basketball. My 3-year-old son literally just says Marcus Howard, right? Because that was the name that he heard all the time. He has an opportunity to take advantage of his success now in what will be the future in college basketball if he was still around.
Yep.
I think it can be a healthy thing for these kids. I think you have to manage it the right way because, our business is right trying to find the gray area, or somebody's going to manipulate it in a way to have some type of recruiting advantage to build their program. I do think, though, as much as we say, like, well, Marcus Howard has a great opportunity, the 7th, 8th man might not. I don't know if that's true, because that kid, there's a group of people that really appreciate him, and they may be in the community where your school is, or it may be in the community where he came from.
Yeah.
And I think we have to look at that and focus in on those guys as well. You can't just focus in on the number one guy. There's opportunities for those kids in their home markets to do some things. where they can use some earning potential, for their name, image, and likeness. I think that's important that we look at it at the top, but also the bottom. Like, there's a walk-on in our program that could be a celebrity in his town. He should have an opportunity. We have to build those bridges for those guys.
Yeah.
Kamani, and your campus, unlike, probably most campuses, maybe South Carolina a little bit, but your boys and girls, Kamani, will be in great demand.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, this is one of the top programs in the country in terms of success on both the men's and women's side. There's a tremendous fan base here at UConn, so I'm sure there'd be, countless opportunities for student athletes to gain, employment through their likeness and images. I just don't know where that would take our program, and DK, to our sport. DK touched on it, but it sounds like to me the rich would just get richer, with the schools that, those blue blood programs, the Dukes, the Kentucky.
So the LSU quarterback gonna be all right. The Alabama quarterback gonna be all right. Duke point guard is gonna be all right.
Absolutely. It's just gonna add another element, to our game that's already making our jobs hard as it is. But we'll just see. We got to do our jobs. We'll see how that changes the game and go from there.
They're talking about putting all this stuff on you guys like all at once. It's a chance. I don't know. You could deal with transfers, compensation, all this stuff all next year, man. Like, it's like they gluttons for punishment, man. After 50 years of holding the kids hostage and keeping them broke, you just going to let them open the fence, let them run around and collect whatever they can collect along the way. I don't know. I know y'all can't say much about the NCAA, but I don't know what the fuck these guys are thinking. Well,
I think it comes down to this, man. I think COVID has created so many waiver opportunities that they're just not gonna want to deal with it.
Just put blanket, everybody just go.
I think that's what it comes down to. Like, who's gonna have the time or the manpower to read through, so many, waiver requests.
We in the land of no SAT, no ACT requirements.
Unbelievable.
But I mean, that's the best thing that's happened so far with that for these, kids coming out of high school. Because, overnight, you're asking a kid to teach himself online to finish out his senior year. I mean, that could have been devastating for so many kids, that needed that full last semester to get where they needed to get academically. So I'm glad that, that was looked at, and giving these kids an opportunity to get to college, and did that.
Absolutely.
It's 2.3 this year, baby.
Absolutely.
That's all you need. The door is open. Well, look, if one of our kids down here decides to commit to Marquette or UConn, take a few minutes and tell them and their parents and the people around them what they can expect over the next 4 years at your respective universities.
For our program, I touched on that a little bit. Coach Wojciechowski is a guy that has an unbelievable demonstrated body of work in terms of success he's had as a player. He's won at the highest level. As a coach, he's won at the highest level. He's been taught by, arguably one of the greatest coaches in college basketball history. He's been at USA Basketball where he's taught and worked with some of the best players to ever play the game. We talk about LeBron, Kobe, Dwayne Wade, those kind of guys. So, his foundation as a coach and a leader comes from the best. I think he instills that in each one of us as players and coaches. And I said it before, we've had two guys that have developed under him that are now living their dream as head coaches. What that tells you is kids are going to be taught the right way. But Wojo is from Baltimore, so he has an appreciation for kids in the Mid-Atlantic. He talks about Philly all the time. He used to love playing against Philly guys and, competing and grinding it up with them. He's a guy that, would dive on concrete. It's just the kind of player that he is. So he appreciates kids that play hard and want to compete and want to battle and give every ounce of toughness that they have. as individuals, I'll tell you, I believe that one of my greatest skills is an ability to build a relationship and get you to believe in yourself, to become the greatest version of yourself. At Marquette, we value the individual. It's in our model as a university, where we're going to give, more than you can ever give us. We're going to give you more to make you the best version of yourself as a student, as an athlete, and as a young man. And I think, in those 4 years, you're going to be put on a stage in front of 17,000 fans where you can win a Big East championship, go to a Final Four. You're going to be taught the right way. And in the end of the day, if your dream is to become a pro, and in pro, I think people automatically think the NBA. Yeah, if you're talented enough, we can push you and give you all that. We have the ability to give you that. But you may be a guy that gets a great living playing in Europe. That's okay. That's still success. But we can develop you into those things with the teaching and the way we go about things. Because I think we build elite habits, and we're going to give you resources that, this is a fact. No program in the country can match the resources that we can give. The one thing I will say is, the kids that we're talking to, they got to be okay coming to Milwaukee, which is a great city. It's a pro city. The Bucks are here. One of the greatest players in the world, and Giannis is here. And he's having success. It's a great institution. It's just
come on, this guy, he won't quit, will he?
I lived it. For some guy,
it just kills. That internet is whack.
Wi-Fi going out again.
It went out again?
Nah, you was
flowing, and then as soon as you started talking about the resources, the Wi-Fi went out
again. No, I mean, the end of the day, though, for some kids in Philly, like, I know it. I lived it. I lived in Philly. I lived in North Philly. My daughter was born there. Sometimes for some of those kids, the best thing to do is to get out of Philly and chase your dream. And we can put our arms around you and give you, the best life and the best opportunity to have success.
And they never go through commercial airports, right?
Not one time, baby. Not one time. Not for recruiting, not for playing. We listen, we fly to Chicago. That's an hour and a half away.
Hey, so Kamani, what's the deal at UConn, man, if you commit?
It's a couple things for us, man. Like I tell people that we've been recruiting in these first couple recruiting classes that we're a startup, man. We're a startup. This is like Google, Amazon, Apple at the beginning stages. Because of where the program was when we got the job and where we're trying to take it to. You got some energetic young assistant coaches, that are going to be dialed into your development and to your improvement and to your success every day. You have a head coach that's as driven as anybody in the country, and Coach Hurley with proven success everywhere he's been. And coming here, you're going to have opportunity. DK and I were talking about this yesterday. We got a ton of programs that say, come here and I'm going to make you a pro. Well, if that were true, then they would just make everybody a pro. You know what I mean? Like, I got 2 kids downstairs. If I can make them a pro, I would make them pros. You know what I mean? Nobody's going to make you a pro. What's going to make you a pro is going to a place that, well, first and foremost, you're going to make yourself a pro. You know what I mean? Do you have the size, the athleticism, the genetics, all right? There's a small pool of people in the world that have the genetics to play in the NBA. Now, do you go to a place that has opportunity? Well, we feel like we're going to have tons of opportunity for you because we're just getting this thing up and running. Do we have a style of play that fits you, that's going to lend to you being able to move on to the next level? And then lastly, are you going to a place that has exposure? We feel like we have a tremendous national brand, and then along with going back into the Big East, we can provide that for you. And then we have some core values, that we're not straying from. We're always going to be together. This place is a family. We do a ton of stuff as a team and as a unit that I don't know if a lot of programs are doing, when it comes to like reading books together, listening to podcasts, watching films, documentaries, going through it as a team, consistent improvement. Like, coach is going to hold you accountable along with us as assistants every step of the way. Are you being the best student you can be? Are you being the best person in the community that you can be? Are you being the best player you can be? And then a commitment to excellence. Like you got to always be at your best. You got to always be at your best. And those are the things that are important to us. And we feel like, we get the right guys in here that appreciate that. We'll be fine. And
you guys are from Philly, what, 3.5, 4?
Yeah, we probably 4 hours. Yeah, I get door to door, and a little less than 4. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, you don't got to get on a plane. Yeah, you don't got to get on a private or domestic. You know what I mean? You could just gas the car, baby. Get on the road.
For some people, the best thing to do is get on the plane and listen. And I got every deal that's out there: Frontier, American. I know all the deals from Philly back to Milwaukee.
I could talk about them cold winters. He don't want to start that. I live
You're living in a cold winter right now.
Oh, and it's a whole different. I tell people this all the time, Dale. When we got to Minnesota, you know what I mean? Our staff was myself, Richard, who grew up, spent a ton of his time in Boston, Dan McHale, who's from Jersey, spent a lot of time at Seton Hall, and then Ben Johnson, who's also in the league at Xavier, a good friend of both of ours, is from Minnesota. And we got there, and people were saying, how you going to adjust to the winters? And we were like, man, listen, man, I'm from New York. I'm tough. I know what it's like. East Coast winters, this ain't going to be nothing. On my birthday, January 4th, the first year we were there, it was 42 below zero.
Woo!
Listen.
I said, this is different.
The only thing I'm going to tell you is this, right? Top resource program in the country, and it's 71 degrees in the gym every day. Every day.
No, that's right. Oh, no, trust me. I had to live it, too. I said, if KG could play here, you could play here. Woo. That was my selling point there. But nah, yeah, definitely 2 awesome places, man. Can't wait to compete.
Well, I really appreciate y'all guys coming on, man. This was a good time. Kamani, because you are in driving distance, man, I'm going to gas that car up, man. I'm going to grab a couple of these young boys. We're going to come see what y'all got whenever this thing breaks.
Anytime.
Kills, I need one of them plane tickets, Kills. I can't.
Yeah, you need a couple. You need a couple.
Listen, that's why I said it's all about finding the right kid. You know what I mean? Finding the right one.
Nah, good stuff, Dale. I appreciate you having me, man. This is awesome. I've heard a lot about you over the years. Good to finally meet you. Through our coaches deal, and now DK plugging us in this way personally. I appreciate it.
All right, man. I will be in touch with y'all guys soon.
Rap on. Rap on. 'Cause whatever you do, you got to do your thing, yeah. If you feel like you want to scream, 'cause that's your way of letting off steam. Scream on. Scream on. If you feel like you want to sing, 'cause singing is your thing.